Hi, this is Johnny Bruce. You are listening to Afterlife Conversations. Imagine the space where spirit speaks, science listens, and the invisible becomes real. In this podcast, we explore the profound connections between our world and the next. I will be your guide on this journey of discovery, healing, and understanding. Each episode, we delve into the stories behind my guided meditations, revealing the messages from those who have crossed over and the wisdom they share with us. Welcome to Afterlife Conversations. I'm your host, Johnny Bruce, psychic medium and intuitive coach. Today, we're diving into hope versus hate. As some of you are aware, when messages come through from the loved ones to the people who sit for a reading, I often recognize those messages are for me and others as well. This is one of those times. Over the past year, those coming to me for a reading have come seeking messages with answers to questions like, what do I do when my future seems uncertain? Why is the world the way it is? Why does the loss of a loved one feel more painful and harder to move through these days? When the messages come through, I have noticed the readings have focused on hope, resilience, and staying true to your heart in times of war, cynicism, and hate. Whether it's my sitters or much of the population in the world, we are seeking hope in dark times when our experience feels the opposite. People are seeking balance. It's in our nature. It helps us stay grounded knowing that where there is darkness, there can be light. There is a concept known as Privatio Boni, the privation of good. This theory argues that evil doesn't have its own being or substance. Instead, evil is a parasite. It is a hole in something that should be whole. St. Augustine was the first to formalize this. He argued that because a good God created everything, everything that exists must be good. Therefore, evil must be non-existence. His exact quote states, "For what is that which we call evil but the absence of good? In the bodies of animals, disease and wounds are nothing but the privation of health. So also in the soul. Vices are nothing other than privations of natural good." Thomas Aquinas took it a step further with his parasite logic. He argued that evil needs good to exist, just as a hole needs a sock to exist. If you take away all the good, the substance, the evil disappears too, because there's nothing left to be wrong. Evil cannot exist of itself, for it has no essence. Thus, evil must be in a subject which is good. With that said, bad and evil only exists if we choose to see it. This reminds me of the observer effect. The observer effect is the fact that observing a situation or phenomenon necessarily changes it. Observer effects are especially prominent in physics, where observation and uncertainty are fundamental aspects of modern quantum mechanics. In psychology, a person who thinks hockey referees are biased against their favorite team is likely to notice all the times when the referee's actions negatively affect their team. They may also discount times when the referee's actions favor their team. It's how what we perceive becomes our reality. Let's move our experiences over the last year into the real world, specifically the world of government oversight and national security. When we talk about the Department of Homeland Security or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, we aren't just talking about policy. We're talking about a massive structural observer that changes the way millions of people move, speak, and think. In neuroscience, it's talked about how the brain switches from autopilot to conscious self-monitoring when it feels a pair of eyes in the room. Now, imagine those eyes belong to the state. When government oversight becomes stronger, meaning more visible or more frequent, it triggers a collective neural shift. People living under the watchful eye of agencies like ICE don't just act natural. Instead, their brains are constantly engaged in active self-monitoring. For those in communities frequently monitored by ICE, the brain stays locked in a state of high-performance monitoring. Every social interaction is filtered through a lens, and we become hypervigilant. We check ourselves and ask, does this look suspicious? Am I following the perceived social norm? This isn't just a choice. It's a physiological change. It's neural activity and stress. Constant observation engages regions of the brain associated with social cognition and anxiety, shifting mental energy away from everyday creativity and toward survival-based self-regulation. The observer effect suggests that consciousness isn't passive. It creates reality. When the DHS, ICE, implements heightened surveillance at borders or within cities, they aren't just recording behavior, they are altering it. Some of you may have heard of the Hawthorne effect. In plain English, it is what happens when people change their behavior simply because they know they are being watched. It started in the 1920s at the Hawthorne Works electric factory. Researchers wanted to see if better lighting would make workers more productive. If they turned the lights up, productivity went up. If they turned the lights down, productivity still went up. They even tried changing the break times and humidity. Productivity kept rising. The researchers eventually realized it wasn't the light bulbs or the brakes. It was the fact that the workers felt special because someone was finally paying attention to them. They felt like they were part of an important study, so they worked harder. Think of it as the boss is looking phenomenon. If you're at work and you know your manager is standing right behind you with a clipboard, you're probably going to type a little faster, sit up a little straighter, and stay off your phone. You aren't necessarily doing a better job because you got a raise or a better keyboard. You're doing it because the attention itself acts like a spotlight. The tricky part about the Hawthorne effect is that the change is usually temporary. Once the researchers leave or the boss goes back into their office, behavior typically slides back to its normal habitual state. This makes it a huge challenge for scientists because it's hard to know if a person is acting naturally or just performing for the study. What we are experiencing when ICE comes to town is called the chilling effect. This is the political version of the Hawthorne effect. If a community knows their digital or physical movements are being tracked, they might stop attending public meetings, skip doctor visits, or avoid social gatherings. Their habitual behavior disappears, replaced by a sanitized, safe version of themselves designed to avoid detection. Just like a worker in the study might work faster when the boss is watching, citizens under high oversight might perform ideal behaviors, over-conforming to laws or social standards, simply because the cost of being misinterpreted by the observer is too high. From a neuroscience perspective, stronger government oversight turns the automatic life of a community into a conscious performance. We lose the authentic, habitual version of society and replace it with one that is constantly self-correcting. When the observer is an agency with the power of DHS, the effect isn't just a quirk of a mind. It's a fundamental restructuring of how a population experiences reality. Given how this constant self-monitoring drains mental energy, do you think that high surveillance environments eventually lead to a total loss of community trust? Or does the brain just adapt to the new normal? When the oversight leaves town, we assume that we go back to normal. However, the presence of physical officers is soon replaced by reports and conspiracies that our Ring doorbells are now taking their place. With so much deception, hate, and war, and despair that we experience each day, is that our reality? If you have been listening to my podcast, you know how I speak about how our thoughts evoke emotions and drive our behavior. In other words, our thoughts and feelings manifest our reality. If you go with me on this journey, then we can take advice from Spirit and look for actions and behaviors of good to change what we observe and become our reality. Spirit is constantly reminding me that this is true. We come from a place of good. We bring it with us when we enter this human existence. It's because it is all we know when we are purely connected to Source, the creative mind, Spirit, the collective consciousness we refer to as God. All things are the living presence of God. We recognize God as good, and we are of that living presence because it continues to live in our hearts. With that, we know all of us are derived from good. When we experience the absence of light or good, then we see and feel darkness and evil. When that happens, we will actively seek what we know to be our true essence, light and good. This is happening all over the world in these times of darkness and evil. Contrast surfaces to help us find balance. We hear the metaphorical bell ring at a boxing match, and a president and a pope enter the ring. One touts that hate and war are what we need, while the other counters with the message that love and peace are all we need. In Germany, people are flocking to the Baltic Sea to watch the rescue of a trapped humpback whale named Timmy. When the government of Germany decided that all had been done and gave up the quest to save Timmy, the crowds revolted and cried out for compassion for the whale until multimillionaires stepped up, brought funds, and a plan to safely move Timmy to the Atlantic Ocean. A plan we all hope succeeds, even as I put this podcast together. In Japan, Punch created an internet storm as we watched a small monkey bullied and alone seek refuge through the companionship of a lifeless stuffed animal. We recognize the contrast between the lifeless stuffed monkey and the monkey full of life. When I speak with my two nieces, Shelby and Katie, it is a connection we hold dear. What's going on with Punch the monkey? We cling to our recounts of compassion and resilience to bring us a moment of joy when it appears absent. On social media in the United States, we are enamored by the love and care between two now famous bald eagles in Big Bear named Jackie and Shadow. They are well-known mated pair living in the San Bernardino National Forest, and their lives are broadcast live by Friends of Big Bear Valley. Jackie and Shadow have recently brought two new chicks into the world. There have been spikes of views on the internet for various clips of the two, including one scene where Shadow spreads his wings to protect Jackie during a snowstorm, as she laid on the eggs to keep them warm and alive. When we can't find compassion in our daily lives, we find it in other ways. Something else happening in the States that exemplifies contrast is that the government has been shuttering programs focused on renewable fuels. Many recognize that alternative approaches to fossil fuels is one way in which we can help save the planet from eventual destruction. However, there is a need to create the illusion that fossil fuels are the best way to keep the lights on. So much so, a war was created to keep our focus on the importance of petroleum and how dependent we are on it. The perception is if we lose it, our world will come crashing down. It's one perspective. Others would like us to observe so it becomes our reality. Once again, We can observe the contrast of what some want us to perceive as our reality with no exception, or we can choose to observe a different reality. We can seek to hear messages and events to help us find balance and fill our lives with what we know to be true, versus seeing and feeling its absence. If we were to listen to the messages coming from the other side of the veil, we would seek out a different perception of the world around us. There is contrast to darkness and evil. We know that it's not gone, only missing from what we observe in our lives. There is no need to make the absence our reality each day. We can seek out what we know is true and fill the void, seeking out the actions of compassion in our community, country, and the world. Whether it's Punch the Monkey in Japan, Timmy the humpback whale in Germany, or the eagles Jackie and Shadow and their new eaglets in the United States, we can find what's missing to give us balance. In 2025, solar power became the fastest growing electricity source in history, with massive adoption even in regions like Africa and Central Europe. Clean energy now accounts for over 90% of new energy projects globally, signaling a definitive shift away from fossil fuels. We can let this and Timmy, Punch, Shadow, and Jackie be what we choose to observe today. It's time for a guided meditation to help us reset our minds to experience what we want our reality to be. This guided meditation is designed to bridge the gap between the conscious performance of survival and the authentic light and good that is our true essence. So let's begin. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Recognize the mental energy you have spent lately, self-correcting and monitoring for shadows. As you exhale, release the conscious performance of trying to fit in or stay safe. For this moment, the only observer is spirit, and spirit sees only good. Think of the things that weigh on your heart, the wars, uncertainty, the cynicism. See them now for what they truly are, an absence of light. These shadows have no substance of their own. They are merely the gaps where the good has been temporarily set aside. You are not fighting a monster. You are simply preparing to fill a void. Your consciousness is not passive. It creates. Shift your focus now. Observe the compassion in the world. See Timmy the whale being rescued by the collective cry of community. See Shadow the eagle spreading his wings in a snowstorm to protect the life beneath him. See the global shift toward the sun and clean energy as we choose to save our home. By observing these truths, you make them your reality. Now, go to the center of your heart, where the living presence of God resides. This is your true essence, light and good. You are not a person performing for a study or a state. You are a soul connected to a creative mind. Feel the warmth of this light filling every hole and every absence in your life. Now, as we enter a few moments of sacred silence, let go of the need to perform for the world in a way they expect. Use this mantra to anchor your mind into your true spiritual DNA. With every inhale, recognize your essence. With every exhale, release the performance. Inhale and recognize your essence. With every exhale, release the performance. Inhale your essence. Exhale the performance. Let these words fill the void until there is no room left for the absence of good. Allow these truths to settle into your neural pathways, replacing hypervigilance with the grounded peace of Source. Begin to bring yourself back. Find the earth under your feet. Feel your fingers and your toes and move them gently. Wake them up. And when you open your eyes, you will see a world that may still have shadows, but you will know they were only perceptions. You will choose to observe the invisible thread of hope. You are grounded, you are curious, and you are filled with the only reality that matters, good. Don't let a war or allow hate to fuel our perception of what is good. It is in our spiritual DNA to know good is the only reality that we need. The absence of that is only a perception. It's not our true essence. Keep that in mind. Always remember that. And remember, it's about breathing in your essence and excelling the performance. Until next time, thank you for joining me on Afterlife Conversations. I'm Johnny Bruce, and you can find me at johnnybruce.com. And remember, as you move through your day, the voice in your head might not always be your own. Sometimes it is spirit, and sometimes the echo of the observer. But you have the power to tune back into the symphony of spirit.